One tweet from the President of the United States, very little detail. He said the following: getting very close to a big deal with China. They want it, and so do we. Joining us from Washington with the latest, Bloomberg's Josh Wingrove. Josh, your thoughts on how we should interpret that tweet in the last 10 minutes?
Well, I'm wondering if we should be yelling the caps lock portion. Like, it's very, that he's very amped right now. And this tweet, of course, teases up a meeting at the White House with his trade team as they're going to hash into whatever the latest is on China. We think the deadline is tomorrow with the U.S., this government in particular. It's never entirely clear to make a decision on whether to punt those tariffs or not. So this is the sort of, Act 3 in the latest season of Trump's China saga. He used to say, look, China wants a deal, and I'm not really in a hurry. And then he's like, China wants a deal, and the question is, do I want one? And the sort of takeaway, the peak man just in that tweet, is him saying that we both want a deal. So he's giving himself elbow room. Whether there's actually any progress under that is underpinning this tweet is very much unclear. But as we've said all week, there have been more hints from the administration that they're close to a deal, or at least that these tariffs will be deferred as talks continue. Then there have been hints on the opposite side.
Josh, we've got into this strange habit of defining the current relationship between the United States and China through basically where we are on any given day with this trade dispute. But what you see outside of the trade dispute is China basically pushing governmental agencies to decouple their supply chains away from the United States and foreign tech. We've seen the one of the few things that the Washington, D.C. set, the Democrats, the Republicans can actually agree on, is having a hard stance against China. Is it a mistake to sit here, regardless of what happens with the tariffs on Sunday, and say things are getting better because tariffs are going off, or things are getting worse because tariffs are going on, when quite clearly, when you step outside of what is going on with this specific trade dispute, things aren't getting better at all?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to be at this for a while. And whether Donald Trump, is in office for another year, another 5 years, or whatever, I think that any president going forward, because as you know, this is something that unifies D.C. in a way that not a lot of things do right now. So the status quo, I think, is gone. I think China knows that. I think that's why the U.S. is trying to press them to put things in writing, things like agriculture purchases, so they can't just punt them if Trump loses the election and not follow through with them. So I think, like, if you're trying to pay attention to this and hope that this phase 1 deal is an end to uncertainty around China, I wouldn't hold your breath. But Trump, is a master of taking sort of, small progress, calling it a win, and moving on. We saw that with the USMCA, which is not all that different from the new NAFTA. He calls it the best trade deal ever, and so things go. So I think we'll see something similar on China. He's going to call it a win, and maybe after the election, they're going to be sort of more adversarial again to go back to some of those core issues, forced technology transfer, IP theft, those kind of things where the U.S. really believes that China is eating its lunch, or stealing its lunch even.